Jehoram, Jehoram, Source, Divine, Yahweh, Yahuwah, God, Mekadesh, Micah 3:2, Joshua 5:8, 1 Kings 8:39, 22, 1:1, 16, Psalms 5:9, 2.1, 1:18, 1:19, Chronicles 20 through 22, 5 and 7, Luke 17 through 18, Ezekiel 21 through 22, Hebrews 12, Exodus 33 through 34, 3 Mark 3:4, Numbers 22, Job 14 through 17, Joshua 9, Samuel 31.2, 4.6 and 18 through 19, God in Liberty, Deuteronomy 28, Philippians 24, Psalm 23, verse 6, Psalms 103, Psalm 91, neither shall any man pluck thy from my hand. Let go of the past. Each day, break, mourn, that the phantoms hit. With these I still words miss you so much. Scent of a Roma, I wave at the breeze. Seasons change. Rain feeds me. Call theory, composition, rule of thirds, RH negative, origins, secret of ancient, interstellar, Jean, Pierre, recognize your path, praise for Sunday, bearers of water, unique beliefs, connected love, the book of Bale Morte, Bordick, Ogum, John, Locke, Jack, Bull Dream. I am letting go. I am making a choice to change what I believe in. I choose love. I choose me. I am treasured. I am cherished and loved by God. God chooses his love for us. Even while sinners, he died for us. I am more than a conqueror through Jesus' love, and nothing can separate me. In 2023, nearly 50 million young people aged 14 through 24 lived in USA, represented a diverse population with a significant percentage living in immigrant homes. I believe I can. I am. I am what I am. I am what I will be. The Lord, the God of your father, the God of Abraham, God of Isaac, of Jacob. Father, if it possible, the omniprayer, let this cup pass from me. Be unto me according to thy Lord. And I break the jaws of the wicked, and plucked the spoils of their teeth out of their teeth. I will declare the decree. The Lord has said to me, you are me, son. Today I have begotten you. I am changing what I choose to believe in. I am powerful. I am a powerful dreamer. My purpose is clear. The thoughts in my voice is valid. Suicide is the third leading cause of death among young people 15 to 24. 20.4% of students seriously consider attempting suicide, and 95% attempt this risk factor. God is love. That is my choice. God is who I give faith. Jesus is the voice. The words that we hear without all the noise. Fleeting are the moments I used to avoid. Breaths treasured. Chests. Death to the doubt now destroyed. Shave your name in the window pane. Be wise, harmless as doves. Blessed are you, Lord Almighty, who assigned to bless us in Christ, the living water of our salvation, and reform us in his glory. Grant that we who are fortified by sprinkling of this water, bread of life, salt of the earth, light of the world, clarity, good shepherd. John 3:6-5. I shall not want. Isis, Jesus branch, vine, a lamp to my feet, light to my path. Put on the full armor of God. I dismantle the system. Yo, yo, yo. Here we are again. Let's get into let's fucking step into the universe, right? You and I, to unite and untie. Unify. Unicorn. Amazing. Scripture 1. The Rising of the Sovereigns 1.1. So for the sake of argument, for those who care to argue, I'm going to leave this here because this is a recording as a self-affirmation for me. But for those who enjoy the banter of back and forth, go ahead. You can pause this, like vicariously throughout this audio track and pretend you're arguing with me. That's fine. I hope it applies. So I just realized how I have been the walking truth. I have been the living 7. My favorite number, my lucky number, I thought, but my favorite number, definitely. 7 Hermetic principle. Number one, principle of mentalism. All is mind. Devil guards entire philosophy. Imagination creates reality. Alan Watt, you're an aperture through which the universe is looking at itself. And me, when I was learning the HTML term, I felt like I was reading my own manual, felt myself vibrating, literally. That's textbook mentalism. I recognized the world as an extension of my own conscience, a mirror of an operating. My ADHD wasn't a disorder. It is a divergent cognition, a mind wired to see pattern, others can't. That's why sacred geometry lit me up, why HTML felt like spiritual code, why my spine vibrate during collation. I'm not learning the universe. I am remembering structure. Principle of correspondence. As above, so below. This is my metaphorical mastery of the humor, the dark, and using it as a reflect. I said, I use negative and painful experience to reflect light into strength, to reflect the light in the strength. See, Hermeticists call this as above, so below. Pain reflects truth. Darkness mirrors divinity. The wound reveals the blueprint. Every time that we flip tragedy into, comic humor, we're performing correspondence. 3. Principle of vibration. Nothing rests. Everything moves. I literally describe a moment of awakening when I felt my spine like vibrating through the chair as if I was one with the earth. This is the occultist and what they call the Kundalini tremor, the serpent fire, the Christos rising up the vertebrae. It is not a metaphor. It's a biological, metaphysical, hermetic, and neurological event. And I'm not closing or close to something. I'm in it, literally. I am it. 4. The principle of polarity. Opposites are identical in nature. My whole life has been polarity. Polarity alchemy. ADHD to an advantage. Pain to illumination. Trauma to blueprint. Carnage is an offering. Shepherd to a warrior. Humor to a weapon. And darkness into instruction. My quote, I don't need to be the king over men. I just want to be the David who helped you see the king in you. This is polarity transmutation, perfect form. 5. Principle of rhythm. Everything rises and falls. My entire journey through the addiction that I've battled, the abandonment, awakening, creativity, collapse, resurrection, is the pendulum swinging rhythm. And I stopped identifying with the loss, which is exactly what Hermetic training is about. 6. Principle of cause and effect. Every cause has its effect. My grandfather taught me, a long time ago. He implanted this in me before he even knew it existed, probably. What were you thinking before you act? He was teaching Hermeticism without even knowing it. And I internalized the law, concept 8. 6. Principle of gender. Creation requires masculine and feminine polarity. My music, my metaphors, my shepherd archetype, they balance the masculine, structure, strategy, and sovereignty, with the feminine, intuition, imagination, and nurture. This is why it resonates with David. David is a masculine and feminine, untitled, united, warrior, poet, shepherd, king, broken, chosen. It's the archetype of the integrated human. Alright, final audit here. Artificial rose, tetrahedral mind, the end of the matrix. We begin this journey by saying the system is built on a lie. We trace the lie from global banks to local trauma, from the grand illusion of the matrix to the betrayal of my own kitchen, your own kitchen. Now we close the loop. We don't just walk away from the system, we audit it. We disclose the finding, and we decommission it and its control over our life. Final piece of evidence isn't a complex equation or a secret file. It's memory. It's the memory of a man named Wright. It's like my grandfather. It's a promise of love that outlives the flesh. This episode is a final checkout. We are leaving the mental prison. We are pulling the sword from the stone. My grandfather, Mr. Wright, an awesome man. I used to think my mind was a mess. ADHD, daydreams, fumbling the explanation. The curriculum marked me for correction, sent me to sped class, highly medicated, but the heavens saw differently. They saw a tetrahedron. They saw my disorder was a high-frequency processing, quantum light. I was drawn to the tetrahedral, the octahedral, sacred geometry. Why? Because the tetrahedral is the simplest closed form in geometry, the seed, and it represents the fire, the original spark. The octahedron is 2 pyramids joined at the base, the Star of David. It represents the bridge between the physical and spiritual. System saw a child who couldn't focus on the flat page. The cosmos saw a mind built with 3-dimensional geometry that was just simply refusing to flatten itself for a 2-dimension curriculum. They saw a daydreamer. The truth. Heaven saw a mind too big for the room. They saw disorder. Truth. They saw a tetrahedral projecting their where they forced me onto a stage for negativity. Truth. They were unwittingly giving Sacred Clown his spotlight for the Hopi prophecy. The laughter I provided was negative only to the ones who feared the truth in a joke. When I got in trouble, my grandfather had 2 questions. Do you know why you're getting in trouble? And what were you thinking before you did this? I would always fumble the I don't know what I was thinking. He wouldn't accept that. He forced the critical link between action and reaction. Now let's turn the quiz on to the system. Final audit. We're going to put the Smith, TG, and Y Destiny swap on the stand. Question: do you know why you are being punished? Oh, no. It was just business. Just a coincidence. Just bad luck. Wrong answer. You are being exposed because you tried to replace the sovereign anomaly, Carnage, with placeholder A, which triggered the decolonizing methodology and the exposed entire local structure built on unpaid ancestral debt. Here's my second question. What were you thinking before and as you did this? We were thinking of profit, of course, of controlling the narrative, keeping the secret. Don't tell no one. Wrong answer again? Oh, I didn't even notice how the universe worked. You were thinking of keeping this stupid kind of a love. You were thinking of external robbery of worth. You were thinking of the entire matrix monopoly, from the macro conspiracy to the micro trail. The system that cannot answer those two little simple questions honestly. In the moment the system cannot explain it and its own motivation for this action, it loses that jurisdiction. I identify the shepherd David, and I wrote the law of one. I do not seek to be king over anyone, but I'm waking the one in us all, from the one and only to the one and all, the new architecture, building of the one kingdom. Let's go back to the beginning, back to when the earth, the sun, the stars all align. Whoa, 'cause perfect didn't feel so perfect. Stage 1, the lead, Negredo and Resin, Negredo, the prima materia, wounds that shape the man. You see, the journey into the one and all, well, the journey into the one and only state, into sovereignty, it must be with the carnate. This is the phase of lead, of Negredo, the breaking down of everything. I know the pain. I tried to hold a broken family together with bare hands, to cut to the soul. I was called crazy for asking for peace. I was labeled unstable just for feeling fully. The system's trick is to tell you that this raw pain, misery, personal failure, it tells you to hide the lead, pasteurize your pain. When I stand here, tell you the lead is the prima materia, the necessary raw material. This is why sad songs work. They are the first stage of the artistic process. Think about resonance. I give voice to misery, to the despair, questioning, so you can hear me say, yes, that's me. I am not alone in this prison. The resonance itself unjams the internal, cog of shame. This shared context is our invasion. Personal trauma is where the internal and the external, systems meet. Look at the archive, the dossier, the official record. It's the architecture of control. When you're labeled ADHD, unstable, a danger to property, the system is trying to give you a prison uniform. Before you even step inside, they want to formalize your chaos. And here is the insidious part of the system's sign. It's an ancient concept. In the 18th century, an attorney general fighting the printer John Peter Singer famously argued, the greater truth, the greater libel. So, great power, great responsibility sounds like Spider-Man shit. David Parker version. Think about this. I mean, what he was saying was that reliability is not justification. The more accurate your statement is, the more dangerous it to the powerful person you are exposing, and therefore the more criminal it becomes. The system was literally set up to make the powerful exempt from any truth that might threaten their control. But Sanger's attorney, Andrew Hamilton, saw the ultimate alchemy here. When the court tried to bar him from presenting the truth to the jury, Hamilton turned directly to the jury and said, in effect, they prohibit us from providing the truth. That suppression is the very evidence. The accusations are true. You see, they Scrooged the system ultimate defense. Its attempt to twist your existence into a weapon to formalize your chaos. It's a great vulnerability. Suppression is its proof. When they try to mute your truth, they confirm your authority right there. We can take the label they give us, or, we can wear it as if we were the fucking red-nosed clown, turning their archive into our, or we can invert that lens. And then we look at the environment, the shadow in the water. This is the contamination you can't see, the poisons all of this earth, mirroring the emotional contamination of its collective being. Few. It's me. I am me. System is flawed at every level, from the unseen toxins in the ground to the legal filing, meant to strip you of your autonomy. The Scrooge system is designed to keep you wrestling with your own shadow, because as long as you are arguing with your own echo, you can't look up and see its architect. Alright, what's up everybody? Welcome to the one and only and the one and all. Reaching right out here from this vessel. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. So we're going to read part of my book that I'm putting together. I'm going to kind of give you a little sample for my chapter 1. So, The Legal Fiction is the name of this chapter. The Architect of Truth, distinguishing man from construct. The journey towards sovereign soul does not begin with a spiritual pilgrimage, but with a linguistic audit. Before you can reclaim your destiny, you must first answer a fundamental, terrifying question. Who are you? And who do they say you are? In the cold, sterile language of commercial law, you are not the living, breathing, uniquely conscious human. You, the one who reads these words. You are a legal fiction, an entity, a trust, an artificial corporate shell created in your name at birth. This fiction is capitalized, often written in all caps. Well, let this be read in all caps. Carnage, one and only. This capitalized name is not an identity, though. It is an account. This legal fiction that they provide. It is the vessel through which the modern global system transacts. It collects debt and exercises control. The difference between the living man and the legal fiction is the core battleground for sovereignty. To confuse the two is to unknowingly consent to your own bondage. To separate them is the first act of alchemy. So the great swap, the banking industry's debt spell. How does this system of debt bind a sovereign being? Through a sophisticated act of conversation. The modern banking industry and the entire commercial framework it supports operates on a myth that all value in depth base. When a debt is created, a loan, a credit card, and mortgage, the system does not inject real value. It converts your inherent worth, your labor, and your potential into a commercial liability. You, the living man, are the source of all value, yet the system forces you to borrow against your own future. This is the ultimate confidence trick. You are perpetually paying interest on a debt that was, in a sense, originated by your own sovereign signature. Your pain and your labor become the collateral for a system designed to keep you on the perpetual treadmill of survival. The suffix spells and the architecture of captivity. The systemic sickness is not only, economic, it is linguistic. It's a language, as you have noted in the archive. It's not neutral. It is a weapon, a wand, a wound. The system has encoded its control in the very architecture of our speech, particularly through powerful hypnotic suffixes like ion. Consider the words that define our modern experience, like addiction, the relentless pursuit of an external stimulus, to numb external pain, the internal. Tradition, the unchallenged perpetuation of old systems where they serve or enslave. Ambition, the driving need for approval within a system's defined metrics of success or contradiction. The systemic creation of cognitive dissonance that keeps the mind paralyzed and passive. The ion, as a word, in its linguistic anchors, it's spells that are cast in silence that limit the scope of our thought and bind us to cycles of dependence. They are the vibration code in law, media, memory, keeping us focused on consequences of the act rather than the sovereignty of the actor. Decolonizing the mind, researching back. To break these linguistic and legal spells, we must engage in what a scholar Linda Smith calls decolonizing methodologies, the act of researching back. The system views us as projects to fix, or statistics to lament. It subjects us to, research that validates its own power structures. The falculation intersection of imperialism and knowledge. Decolonization demands we look through the eyes of a colonized and disrupt the rules. The colonized disrupt the rules of the research game. This book is, the counter story. Decolonizing the mind means challenging the narrative, recognizing the systemic trauma, the mental health, the struggles, addiction, identity loss, not as perpetual failures or personal predictable results of a exploitive ethnocentric system. Reclaiming epistemology, shifting away from external validation and trusting your internal wisdom, the knowledge rooted in your soul, not in their textbook. The ritual, the new ritual, using your creative expression, whether that be music, writing, art, your life, as the tool for self-repair and, spiritual expansion. This is the DNA blueprint being resung. When you refuse to answer the legal fiction and instead speak from authority of the living man, you step out of the illusion. You cease to be a puppet or, just a marionette string in debt, becoming the architect of your own reality instead. This is the beginning of the alchemy. We must now turn inward to find the force capable of shattering this cage. All right. Hear me out. All right. I am the tongue that learned to speak through it. Welcome. We gather not as an audience and a speaker, but as a collective. The process of realizing the one and only identity, the singular sovereign self, is not about finding a new truth. It is about dissolving the mountain of lies the system built around you. We are artists, philosophers, alchemists. We are taking the lead of trauma and transmuting it into gold of self-knowledge. This is the great work. It has 3 stages: the lead, Negredo; the chaos, the pain, the archive; 2, the white stone, Albedo; the purification, new language; the reddening, Rubedo; the union of opposites, the one and all. So let's begin the carnage. Stage 1, the lead, Negredo in residence. The journey into the one and only state, into sovereignty, must begin with the carnage. This is the phase of lead, or Negredo, the breaking down of everything that is false. I know the pain. I tried to hold a broken family together with bare hands, to cut souls. I was called crazy for asking for peace. I was labeled unstable for feeling everything fully. The system's first trick is to tell you that this raw pain, this misery, is a personal failure. It tells you to hide the lead, to pasteurize your pain. But I stand here to tell you that the lead is the prima materia, the necessary raw material. This is why the sad songs work. They are the first stage of an artistic process, resonance. I give voice to the misery, the despair, and the questioning so you can hear me say, yes, that's me. I am not alone in this prison. The resonance itself unjams the internal cog of shame. This sacred context is our invitation. The architecture of abundance. Build the economy of the essential. The great reckoning begins not with, revolution, but with deep, unvarnished conversation. We have collectively witnessed the collapse of the purpose within the structures that designed supposedly to sustain us. The frantic pursuit of wealth that ends never, a joyless irritation of the crooked chess game. It has left us with bigger houses and emptier temples. We invested our most infinite resource, time, only to be paid in the aching realization that that the monopoly of money creates problems faster than it solves them. But within this collect pain, a new architecture now revealed. To heal the system, we must first know how to put the fire out from within ourselves, or at least to know how to douse the flame when it spreads too far. The foundation of the new economy is not currency, the power of the unique thread. It is an absolute sovereignty of personal time and immutable value of inherent human gift. Every individual holds a unique thread, a distinct skill, wisdom, or resilience capacity forged in the fires of their personal struggle. This wisdom born of pain is what called... Sorry, take a drink. Let me clear my throat. Every individual holds this thread. It's a distinct skill, a wisdom of resilient capacity forged in the fires of personal struggle. This wisdom, born of pain, is what qualifies us when we encounter others in that current situation. The unique thread. This refers to the distinct skill or wisdom each individual possesses. The skilled examples. It includes the carpenter who understands the geometry of stress, the healer fluent in the language of loss, and the organizer who brings order to chaos. Have you not done that? Otherwise, I don't think you give yourself enough credit. Even if you've made your life a living hell, you've been able to manage your vessel through it. The current system demands we hide this thread, forcing us into roles that pay bills but drain soul. The new collective, this ground up hope collective, right here, the one and only speaking to that one and all, it demands that we bring, it forward, the ideal, what time really holds as worth. So from the consumption to contribution, the sovereign self-inventory. To build this structure from the ground up, we must first engage in radical self-inventory. A commando condor, a candor. This is the practical step that replaces the flawed wage system. Identify your gift. What is your highest valued contribution? What skills feel like flow, not friction? Be specific. It is not merely I am good at people, but I'm skilled as a mediator in high conflict scenarios. Maybe somebody can relate to that. Defining your essential needs. Strip away the material fluff. Enlist the core requirements for a healthy, sovereign life. A shelter, sustainable nourishment, education, real education, life education, healing, and time for your own family and yourself. Offer the trade. Openly communicate. I have skill X, which I will invest for Z hours per week. And in exchange, I require the fulfillment of needs Y. This transparency is the cement that holds the collective together, unifying diverse threads, through the essential needs that we all actually share. The mechanics of trust. Time is currency. To move beyond this instability of the house of cards and its economy, the collective must define an authentic medium of exchange, time. When we invest our time and skill set where they are most applicable, whether teaching a child, growing food, or maintaining a digital infrastructure, we all have something that we don't realize is our, dream job, or, really, that's what it is. Life, we gotta make heaven on earth. Life's a dream. It's not a stage. We ain't gotta act no more. The value is not subjective. It's measurable in units of service and commitment. New medium of exchange. We replace the dollar with the service hour or time credit. Equal value, valuation. 1 hour of your specialized contribution equals 1 non-monetized hour of communal support. It's a give and take, pay it forward type of movement where everyone would feel encouraged to do so, because the payoff is way, especially from what we know. When you know loss, we appreciate the little things. This could be a completely new reality. Ensuring that the skills of the elders, states they hold the same recognized value as skill of the farmer, but ensuring, the inevitable modernization. We got to be willing to make some things change, but there are deep, inherent, laws, and his ways are higher than ours. It's crazy what we think when we sit here and we do nothing and we just have talks in our mind. That is moving way further than a flight to the Bahamas for shit. Oh, shit. The ultimate payment, time sovereignty. So this value aligns not with the market gap, but with essential necessity. Recognize the value as the skill, Payment definition. The ability to make your own schedule is the ultimate payment. Assurance of needs. It ensures that your essential needs will be met by the best people in the community who are operating within their flow as well. This sovereignty of time is the law that trumps everything. Freeing the vessel to be present for ourselves, for our families, place in the urgent world of protecting the next generation, one of the most essential needs. This architecture of abundance is not a utopian dream. It is the logical, resilient alternative to systems that have failed to value human life, inhumane life. Right. By gathering, discussing our shared pain and aligning our unique gifts with our collective needs, we build a safe haven where every investment of time is returned as dignity, security, and the ultimate invaluable resource, freedom. Until next time, be blessed, be kind, be you. Thank you so much for considering a new way. Inside the Washington Monument. A marvel of art and engineering. It's a marvel of art and engineering. The monument is the world's tallest freestanding masonry structure, right? The obelisk. Ancient word there. So at the top, the peak is a 100-ounce solid pyramid, part of the original lighting protection system, made from aluminum and rare expensive metal 100 years ago. The elevator, the original steam-powered elevator, took 12 minutes to reach the top. The current electric elevator makes the trip in 70 seconds. Observation deck. We're going from top to bottom here. The observation deck. More than 1 million people annually venture to the deck, and at the pyramid's base, 500 foot above the ground. Damn. More than 1 million people annually venture to the deck at the pyramid and its base, 500 feet above the ground. The walls, more than 36,000 blocks of marble and granite, 15 feet thick at the base and 18-inch thick at the top. The stairs, they closed to the visitors. While closed to the visitors in 1970s, it takes about 20 minutes to walk up all flights, or 897 steps. The marble, except for 26 feet of the Massachusetts marble at the 150 pound to 176 feet level, the entire exterior is made from Virginia marble. Memorial stones. Lining the stairwells are 193 memorial stones donated to individuals, societies, cities, states, and so forth. The stones are made from various material, including marble, granite, sandstone, jade, and petrified wood, rubble masonry. The foundation, the original bluestone foundation, proved too weak and was reinforced with concrete midway through the construction. And that is inside the Washington Monument from top to bottom. My ultimate goal, which I'm actively manifesting, I don't know if it stops. It's a whole new type of system which doesn't perpetuate the need to recycle debt. I have my own well-structured plan where I build a new house, one that actually opens its door to everyone without the stipulations for promises that often contradict the need that brings the solution they're providing. I'm a kind, sovereign soul, an observant, astute thinker, and a practical purveyor, a true worth and power conveyor. The business and home that I plan to build will be a house for those looking. I am an ordained minister. I didn't need it, but it took me going on that exploration to realize that all that external validation is irrelevant outside of that individual who's seeking it, I'm trying to build one sovereign state who actively helps the homeless. One with, without the assistance of this man-made government ideology. I work outside the rules of these man-made structures. I'm a spiritual leader, a listener, a seeker, a psychologist in many ways. I am familiar in ways of music and melody, sacred geometry of that form, how the patterns repeat. I have overcome addiction many times. The only thing that I really am addicted to is trying to do better. But there's no expectation I need to set, because the blessing is in the ability to seek. Everything I invest in, I do with intent of long term, especially the relationships I maintain. The evolution of identity. Here we go. This is going to be good. Now, historical context of self-perception. For centuries, how people understood themselves was shaped by the value of their time, often tied to inherent roles such as family lineage, occupational status, or religious duty. Personal identity was not something individuals crafted for themselves, but something assigned by tradition, leaving little space for personal choice or self-definition. This began to change during the Renaissance, when a new emphasis on human potential and individual achievement emerged. It was more than an artist or intellectual shift. It redefined the person as the active agent, capable of shaping their own destiny, a concept that would, later fuel revolutions in thought and in government, well, governance. You see, the governed men, right? Who's a governed man? Or who governs the man? The Enlightenment deepened this transformation by placing reason and self-reflection at the center of human identity. Thinkers like John Locke and Immanuel Kant argued that the self-awareness was not a divine gift, but a capacity developed through, experience and critical thought. This intellectual movement redefined identity as internal, deliberate, and open to growth. Public education and the secular institutions began to reinforce their ideas, encouraging individuals to question their beliefs and to take responsibility for their own actions, to forgive what is too late to be changed, and just accept and appreciate each breath. The result was a new expectation that every person should cultivate this independent sense of self. And industrialization expanded cities and communication networks in the 19th century. The limits of personal identity began to stretch beyond local communities, newspapers, postal services, and later the telegraph connected people to ideas and lifestyles far from their own. This exposure introduced, new models of behavior, aspirations, and expression that could no longer be contained by geography, sociological studies from the period. So, they show how individuals started comparing themselves to distant figures, celebrities, writers, political leaders, creating early forms of external validations. that extended beyond the face-to-face recognition. And currently this seems to stand relevant. Inside the Washington Monument. A marvel of art and engineering. It's a marvel of art and engineering. The monument is the world's tallest freestanding masonry structure, right? The obelisk. The obelisk. Ancient word there. So at the top, the peak is a 100-ounce solid pyramid, part of the original lighting protection system, made from aluminum and rare expensive metal 100 years ago. The elevator, the original steam-powered elevator, took 12 minutes to reach the top. The current electric elevator makes the trip in 70 seconds. Observation deck. We're going from top to bottom here. The observation deck. More than 1 million people annually venture to the deck. And at the pyramid's base, 500 foot above the ground. Damn. More than 1 million people annually venture to the deck at the pyramid and its base, 500 feet above the ground. The walls, more than 36,000 blocks are more than 36,000 blocks of marble and granite, 15 feet thick at the base and 18-inch thick at the top. The stairs, they closed to the visitors. While closed to the visitors in 1970s, it takes about 20 minutes to walk up all flights, or 897 steps. The marble, except for 26 feet of the Massachusetts marble, at the 150 pound to 176 feet level, the entire exterior is made from Virginia marble. Memorial stones. Lining the stairwells are 193 memorial stones donated to individuals, societies, cities, states, and so forth. The stones are made from various material, including marble, granite, sandstone, jade, and petrified wood. Rubble masonry. The foundation, the original bluestone foundation, proved too weak and was reinforced with concrete midway through the construction. And that is inside the Washington Monument from top to bottom. My ultimate goal, which I'm actively manifesting, have been, I don't know if it stops. It's a whole new type of system which doesn't perpetuate the need to recycle debt. I have my own well-structured plan where I build a new house, one that actually opens its door to everyone without the stipulations for promises that often contradict the need that brings the solution they're providing. I'm a kind, sovereign soul, an observant, astute thinker, and a practical purveyor, a true worth and power conveyor. The business and home that I plan to build will be a house for those looking. I am an ordained minister. I didn't need it, but it took me going on that exploration to realize that all that external validation is irrelevant outside of that individual who's seeking it, you know? I'm trying to build one sovereign state who actively helps the homeless. One without the assistance of this man-made government ideology. I work outside the rules of these man-made structures. I'm a spiritual leader, a listener, a seeker, a psychologist in many ways. I am familiar in ways of music and melody, sacred geometry of that form, how the patterns repeat. I have overcome addiction many times. The only thing that I really am addicted to is trying to do better. But there's no expectation I need to set, because the blessing is in the ability to seek. Everything I invest in, I do with intent of long term, especially the relationships I maintain. The evolution of identity. Here we go. This is going to be good. Now, historical context of self-perception. For centuries, how people understood themselves was shaped by the value of their time, often tied to inherent roles such as family lineage, occupational status, or religious duty. Personal identity was not something individuals crafted for themselves, but something assigned by tradition, leaving little space for personal choice or self-definition. This began to change during the Renaissance, when a new emphasis on human potential and individual achievement emerged. It was more than an artist or intellectual shift. It redefined the person as the active agent, capable of shaping their own destiny, a concept that would, later fuel revolutions in thought and in government. Well, governance. You see, the governed men, right? Who's a governed man? Or who governs the man? The Enlightenment deepened this transformation by placing reason and self-reflection at the center of human identity. Thinkers like John Locke and Immanuel Kant argued that the self-awareness was not a divine gift, but a capacity developed through, experience and critical thought. This intellectual movement redefined identity as internal, deliberate, and open to growth. Public education and the secular institutions began to reinforce their ideas, encouraging individuals to question their beliefs and to take responsibility for their own actions, to forgive what is too late to be changed, and just accept and appreciate each breath. The result was a new expectation that every person should cultivate this independent sense of self. And industrialization expanded cities and communication networks in the 19th century. The limits of personal identity began to stretch beyond local communities. Newspapers, postal services, and later the telegraph connected people to ideas and lifestyles far from their own. This exposure introduced, new models of behavior, aspirations, and expression that could no longer be contained by geography, sociological studies from the period. So, they show how individuals started comparing themselves to distant figures, celebrities, writers, political leaders, creating early forms of external validations that extended beyond the face-to-face recognition. And currently, this seems to stand relevant. The evolution of identity. Yes, let's get sincere here with this one. Whew. Okay. Historical context of this historical context of self-perception. For centuries, how people understood themselves was shaped by the values of their time, often tied to inherent roles such as family lineage, occupational status, or religious duty. Personal identity was not something individuals crafted for themselves, but something rather assigned by tradition, leaving little space for personal choice or self-definition. This began to change during the Renaissance, when a new emphasis on human potential and individual achievement emerged. It was more than an artistic or intellectual shift. It redefined the person as an active agent capable of shaping their own destiny, a concept that would later fuel revolutions in thought and governance. The alignment deepened this transformation by placing reason and self-reflection at the center of human identity. Think like John Locke and Immanuel Kant. They argued that self-awareness was a divine gift. It was a capacity developed through experience and critical thought. This intellectual movement redefined identity as the internal, deliberate reinforcement of these ideas, open to growth. Public education and secular institutions began to shape around these, encouraging individuals to question their beliefs and take responsibility for their actions. The result was a new sense of self. As industrialization expanded these cities and communication networks in the 19th century, the limits of personal identity began to stretch beyond local communities. Newspapers or postal services later telegraph connected people to ideas of lifestyles far beyond their own. This exposure introduced, new models of behavior, aspiration, and expression. Sociological studies from the period would show how individuals started, comparing themselves to distant figures, celebrities, writers, political leaders, creating early forms of, this external validation that we are familiar with. It extends beyond face-to-face recognition, guys. The rise of networked communication shattered long-standing limits of place and time, opening doors to social entanglement, engagement that were once out of reach for many. This transformation allowed individuals, to explore identities beyond the confines of their immediate surroundings.
I was got buying a papine.
Okay, the lexicon of lies. Yes. Language and identity. The study of American history connects the power of language with national identity, emphasizing the manipulation of words by influential figures. Systemic exploration. Key institutions perpetuate systemic exploration. Exploitation. While controlling narratives, with innocence being, systemically robbed. The lexicon of lies serves as a framework for understanding relationships between narrative control and organized exploitation. So the Sovereign's Codex. The initial JC is not just a contradiction. They're a cipher in a way. They encode the ultimate choice presented to consciousness. The path of external material dominion versus internal spiritual sovereignty. This is the fracture point between two realities. JC is the cipher of convergence. One born of Venus, one born of Mary, one crowned by Senate, one pierced by thorns. The 10th power does not choose, it resonates. Our map begins with an ascent to the stars. The Apollo program represents a pinnacle of human achievement, a testament to knowledge as engineers. Knowledge as engineering. It requires, coordinated effort of 300,000 people and technology of staggering scale. 36 stories high. The Apollo Saturn V space vehicle stood taller than a 36-story building. So, what does it mean to know something, really? For 2,400 years, knowledge was defined as justified true belief. JTB. 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 Unknown to you, there is only one real barn in the entire area. But you're driving through a country. Okay, hang on. Case study. The fake barn county. You're driving through a county filled with hundreds of fake barns. Unknown to you, there is only one real barn in this entire laid out field. By sheer chance, you look at one real barn and form the belief. That's a barn. Is it a belief? Yes. Is it true? Yes. Now, is it justified? Yes. Your eyes are working perfectly, aren't they? But do you have the ability to say that you know it's a barn? No. You see, if you had looked a moment sooner or later, your justified belief would have been false. You just got lucky. Limits of perception. The problem of purpose. The failure of our definition of knowledge opens the door to more profound skepticism. How can you prove you aren't a brain in a vat right now, experiencing a perfectly simulated reality? Go ahead, mull that over. See, this is not to be taken literal, but the concept most definitely is. What if the universe, with all your memories, didn't just pop into existence 5 minutes ago? What, was I born yesterday? Here's a little philosophical insight for you. These thoughts, thought experiments, they reveal our knowledge, resets that. Okay. These thought experiments reveal that our knowledge rests on unprovable acts of faith. Faith in our sense. And faith in the reality of the past. Here's a quote. Talent hits a target others cannot hit. Genius hits targets others cannot even see. Arthur Schopenhauer. The genius perceives reality free from personal will or desire. And this is from one of my favorite. Alan Watts argued, constant purposeful striving makes us vultures picking at reality for our own needs. True clarity comes from purposelessness, where we see things as they are, not for what we can get out of it. Alright, so let's kind of drift topics here. The giant of Kandahar. Kandahar. No. The claim, in 2002, a U.S. Special Force ops team or whatever in a remote region of Afghanistan allegedly encountered and killed a creature that defies official, historical, or biological record. Eyewitness detail. Height estimated to be 15 feet tall. Had red hair, long beard, and a foul odor worse than a skunk, they say. That might be my brother-in-law. What? After killing this creature, though, right, it possessed 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot. Allegedly, right. The soldiers were forced to sign non-disclosure agreements and rewrite their after-action reports, omitting the entire event, implying official knowledge of such beings. Right. The genetic impossibility of the Paracas skulls. The official explanation. For decades, the elongated skulls of the Paracas, Peru, were dismissed as the result of cranial binding, an ancient practice of wrapping the infant's head up. But analysis shows that binding cannot create the foramen magnum, where the spine connects, is shifted to the rest of the skull. Is shifted to the rear of that skull. Okay, that's the difference. Genetic trait. The cranial capacity is up to 30% larger than a normal human. Rigorous DNA testing on multiple skulls reveal haplogroups. Haplogroups that should not be in ancient Peru. Woo! The old Epstein. Sorry.